No one likes being misrepresented. And especially after being misrepresented, the one who is misrepresenting goes on to teach the misrepresentation as if it is truth and does it with a certain zeal and rigor out in the world. No one likes that. Muslims don't like that. Whatever topic you can choose in this world, no one holding to their own ideas about anything would actually appreciate something like that. And so to have meaningful discussions in any subject, I must say that we ought to avoid as much in our power and our strength to not misrepresent people and allow a certain level of fairness to somebody who we disagree with, and it is expected from others as well who disagree with us, to for them to allow some level of fairness to us and our ideas about religion or whatever that we would like to talk about. Why I'm talking about this is about 4 years ago, I came across a comment, a quote, in the comment section of a debate with James White and another Muslim scholar of whom I have forgotten the name. And this was what I found in the comment section. About, by the way, this comment was made from a Muslim man in regards to the Christian doctrine of the Trinity. And the quote was this: God sacrifices himself to appease himself so that mankind might be saved from his hate through his love. I know that that's a mouthful. However, I must say that your common Muslim man in life who is not very knowledgeable or has not had any meaningful discussion with Christian theologians would generally agree with that statement, that first of all, that God sacrifices himself to himself, the whole being of God, right? And on top of that, that he appeases himself by saving man from himself because of his hate and his own love. But I will say that from a Christian perspective, we have labored as Christian theologians a lot to develop the language and be careful of the language we use when referring to God and his triunity. So it is very important for us to, as Christians, understand that there are great misrepresentation out there about the Christian faith, about Christian life, about Christian doctrine, about the way Christians think, about Christian history, about so much that I think that it would be a very great help for us to come to a place where we start understanding these misrepresentations and start dealing with them. Have a response for them. Understand where they come from, why these misrepresentations are being made. Are they genuine? Are they malicious, etc.? So there's a lot of reason as to why we as Christians should get involved in this world of theology and kind of understanding the misrepresentations, not only from the Muslim community, but from everyone who would disagree with the Christian doctrine and the Christian community in the world. I would even go as far as to say, even the Christians understanding the misrepresentations that other Christians are making within our own community. And so dealing with these things become very important. So I have taken upon myself the task to begin with dealing the specific issue of misconceptions in the Muslim world. And the first misconception that I want to deal with today is the very quote that I read the very comment that I read for you earlier on, that God sacrifices himself to appease himself so that mankind might be saved from his hate through his love. Sorry, I can't help but giggle every time I read that. It sounds ridiculous. And so I think that is the point the person who was commenting was trying to drive across, that the absurdity of this Christian doctrine, it is something that is not only absurd, but it is something that invites humor in anyone. You know, I myself giggle at that statement. So, my dear Muslims and my dear Christians, how do we understand, first of all, how do we respond to this? Did God sacrifice God? Did he sacrifice himself? Or is that a misrepresentation? And let me say, it is a great misrepresentation. God did not sacrifice himself, the whole being of God. And if you look at it from a Trinitarian perspective, this whole comment falls flat on its face. The reason why I say is because it was not God, the being of God, who died on the cross, but it is the person of Christ, the human nature of Christ, not the deity of Christ, but the human nature of Christ that dies on the cross. Because deity by nature cannot die. And that is something that is accepted from the Muslim community and the Christian side, unless there is somebody who says that no, it is possible that God dies, like the Greek mythology, etc. Now that would be a whole different issue on its own. But now, responding to Muslims specifically, we have to then come to a place where we say that we are not of the opinion that God can actually die, that deity is subject to death. Okay, so we say and we teach that it was the human nature of Christ that dies on the cross. Okay, so I'm not sure how many of the Christian brothers have heard this questioning and this line of thinking from Muslims, and that is this: was Jesus God? Yes. Did Jesus die on the cross? Yes. So therefore, God died on the cross? No. Okay, we have to understand that Jesus has two natures, right? Which is a divine nature and a human nature. Now, that is something that has been taught historically. We have, as Christians, theologians have labored hard to clarify that, okay? And we can teach that from the scriptures very extensively. We have done work on this specific topic. Now, so I just want to clarify firstly and foremost is that it is not deity of Christ that dies on the cross, but it is the human nature that dies on the cross. It is not the deity of Christ. Please get that in your head, okay? So what happens is then, if you look at the rest of the quotation, the rest of the comment from a Trinitarian perspective, it makes a lot of sense, okay? God, in his sovereignty and in his holiness, looks upon sin and hates on sin, okay? Romans 1:18, that the wrath of God is stored, okay, and is going to be revealed against all ungodliness, and that is true. But when we look at this whole issue and we say that, okay, as much as the holiness of God requires hatred of God towards sin, there is also this overwhelming love attribute, communicable attribute of God, which is love, which is not hindered by anything. And so love and God's anger and wrath against sin meets in the person of Christ. And so as he goes on the cross and dies on the cross, it is because The wrath of God is being satisfied on the cross in the human nature of Christ, dying on the cross, and also love being displayed at the same time for the salvation of many. Okay, so that is your basic understanding of what the Christian doctrine teaches, that it is not God who sacrifices himself, but it is the person of Christ that has been sacrificed by the united will of God. And so today my purpose is not to go on and talk about and really unravel the doctrine of the Trinity for you. I can do that perhaps on request, but I do want to clarify this very important point, that to my Muslim friends, that when you deal with a Christian, understand something, and that is this: your Christian friend, there is a consistent reasoning behind what he is saying. Okay, so it would be helpful to take the time to understand before being critical and skeptical about what he is saying and become argumentative, because then that does not help anyone. Okay, so let's just put that attitude away. Even the Christian community, I would encourage my brothers and sisters to not be dismissive. Do not say that other religions are stupid, they don't make sense, etc., etc., and not be hasty in making them fools without understanding what they're actually saying. Okay, and same goes for Muslim community. Because you don't understand the Trinity, because you don't understand Christian history, please take a moment to sit down with your Christian friend, pick up a Christian theological textbook, and read and understand what the Trinity is all actually about. And if you fail to get answers and stuff, there are many helpful theologians, and I will highly recommend one man, James White, on the specific issue. He's even written a book, The Forgotten Trinity. It is a very helpful resource. And so I'm going to encourage you to invest in those kind of things before making us out as idiots. Because trust me, the more you study and read into the Christian doctrines, you will learn how much beauty, truthfulness there is in the Christian doctrine. Thank you. My name is Shamun Khakan, and I will see you soon.